Hi, this is Matt McIntosh, and this is going to be video 3 of 4. And I'm just continuing on with the head sculpts. Um, and as you can see, I'm just starting to build up the ears for this character. So there's a whole bunch of ways that you can go about making ears, but the way that I tend to use is just to pull geometry out using the move tool. So build it up a little bit with the clay tool and then use the move tool to pull out the section that you're after, and then that can give you some geometry behind the ear that you can then just nudge back into position and create that ridge that goes around the edge of the ear. So yeah, as a better example, I'm just gonna kind of roughly go over this with the dam standard to give that ridge its appearance. As you can see there, and then I'll go back into this with the move tool and just give it a bit of a better form first. Just checking what it's like from a different angle. Yeah, okay, so I'd look at using the move tool to basically refine the shape that I've just pulled out. And as you can see, when I start pulling this stuff down, it gives that crease that I've just been making with the damn standard tool a bit more impact and a bit more like the back of the ear. If you're finding things that are just, not working the way that you're expecting it to with the move tool, like I currently am with this, just change the angle and give it another go. So yeah, I'm just pushing some of this geometry back behind the ear to make it stand out a little bit more. The earlobe there. It's got a bit of a kind of webbing appearance going on at the top of the ear, but that can work. That can be that can stay in there if it needs to. And then what I'm going to do to get the detail for the inner part of the ear is just go back in there with a clay tool and start pushing bits around and shaping it that way. I'm just going to grab this section after I've smoothed it out, and I'll probably just push it back a little bit more with that move tool. Give this a bit more curvature. It's very kind of angular there. Get a bit of this shape on the inside of the ear sorted out first, because if I pull that piece back, it's going to block what I'm working on. So I'll probably do that in a little while actually. Yeah, give the ear a bit of an ear hole. Blend it back so it's not quite as harsh, and now I can pull this little bit back. There you go. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a basic form for an ear there. Right, the forehead's looking a bit kind of Neanderthal, so just going to bulk up this area a little bit more so that there's not a definitive ridge there. Just using the clay tool to blend into that and then feed it down onto the bridge of the nose. Give that a bit of a better shape. Okay, so this is again another example of how the damn standard tool could be used to just cut in a little bit of information above or below the eyes, just to refine the shape of it and make it a little bit more pronounced. Obviously, if you press the shift key and smooth everything away, you will lose that information. So just going back over that to put in some creases for bottom eyelid. Probably a bit too intense there, so I've just brushed it back and then redoing that section. Okay. Right, so I'm gonna play around with the shape of the mouth because it doesn't quite look right at the moment. So I'm just gonna use the move tool to change the shape of the chin and give it a bit more of a better formation. Not quite as desperate down as the past video, but still quite a big chin is that. So work on it a little bit more. Fix these bits though, because I've just moved that area around and broke it a little bit. So there we go. Right. Get rid of that kind of indentation in the bottom of the chin there. Right, so yeah, now what I'm going to look at doing is just building up a bit of the cheeks. Feeding that back into the rest of the face. I think what I'll look at doing is give this guy a bit more of a pronounced jaw. Just keep going over the same sorts of spots around the jaw to build up that area. Right, so we're about like half an hour into this, just under half an hour. It's definitely starting to come together now. It's just going to be a case of going over the same sorts of areas and refining the shapes of things. I think that was a bit too intensive emotion there. Yeah, it's just going to be a case of going over the model, looking at it from different angles and seeing what needs refinement. I mean, his head is very bulbous at the moment, so I'm just going to pull this forehead back a little bit. And likewise, changing angle, his jaw is somewhat wide there, so I'm just, you can see, moving the mouth around, pulling the chin into a better position, and maybe just moving that jaw up slightly so it's not quite as wide and low. Obviously, when you do make these sorts of adjustments, then you need to see how it's affecting the rest of the mesh. You might find that because you're still moving stuff around, you need to keep going over the same spots again and again and again, because it will affect the detail level. So yeah, you just need to show a little bit of patience with your mesh. I think the key thing for people that are new to ZBrush, they seem to think it's going to be I don't know, a 2 minute sculpt and they're going to have like perfect results. These things take time to actually build and put together. So as you can see, like I say, it's half an hour into it. Obviously, there's still areas that can be refined and improved, but you're kind of getting the idea, hopefully, that it does take time to put these things together. Okay, there's some weird shapes going on this jaw, so I'm just going to blend some of them back using the smooth tool or the clay tool as I've got here. It's a bit too pronounced. I'm just going to smooth that section out and go back over it. Okay. So yeah, how much detail you end up putting into these sorts of models is up to you. Obviously, it's going to be your own work. Um, with regards to this sort of stuff, I've seen people working on things where they go to insane amounts of detail on every piece that they work on, and that's fine, but consider whether the mesh is actually going to be seen. So this stuff here, I'm just bulking out at the back. Um, it's never actually going to be seen, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. And likewise with the bit of the torso, there's not much of that that's going to get seen, so I'm not going to spend too much time on there. With the face, I'll probably do a pass later on where I'll look at putting pores and creases and things like that into it. But like I say, I have seen people like sculpting paws on arms and then they've built a shirt over the top of it. Just think about your workflow and whether that aspect is actually going to be seen. If it is, then maybe you do need to go to that level of detail. If it's not, you might be just wasting your time by doing that sort of stuff. So try and plan out your model a little bit better, or try to sculpt it whereby you're not going to be kind of wasting time on stuff, or it might be just a quick pass later on where you can put that sort of information onto it. Okay, so yeah, I've kind of given him a bit more of a Neanderthal appearance here, so I just need to push this back a little bit, get the shape of that looking a bit better. Looks like he's got quite a big eyebrow going on, and I just need to brush this back and blend it back so it's not quite as pronounced as it currently is. Okay, so that ain't looking too bad now. Thinking maybe the corners of the eyes could do with a bit more work. But yeah, I think I'll refine these ears. They seem a little bit kind of large. One kind of tip for making the size of the ears should be that the bridge of the nose down to the tip of the nose should be the same sort of length as one of the ears. And that's works out pretty well for getting the measurements of your ears. Okay, so I'm just gonna work into these lips a little bit. And to refine the detail there, I'm just using the dam standard, and that cuts in into the surface. And then for the actual edge of the lip, I'm just going to use this pinch tool. I'm going to turn the intensity down because what it does is it pulls the mesh from around it in towards the line that you're making, so it can distort the mesh quite a lot. So you just use it sparingly, but it is really good for kind of doing these sorts of edges of lips or around the edge of an eye, and it'll give that not a sharp edge, but it will give that kind of appearance of the edge of a lip. So I'd recommend that for just getting that sort of level of detail. From the side there, it looked a bit pet lipish, sticking out his bottom lip a bit. That being said, I don't think it's terrible for the character to have that in there, so I'll just leave it for the time being and see how it looks later on. With regards to this video, I'll call that the end for this one. Thanks for listening.